Good morning. Let's talk about music. Have to take my mask off. Nice to be here. My name is Lynette Westendorf, and we're going to talk about music. I'm presenting this series of 6 to 10 videos with Cascadia as a sponsor, and they're going to be made available on the Cascadia website. And we're starting at the very beginning. If you don't know anything about music, of course you love music or you wouldn't be tuning in, but we're going to start at the very beginning. These are lines and spaces, as you can see, and you've probably recognized that from looking at music that yes, you know that notes are written on lines and spaces. This is how it began, and what you have here would be one note represented by a space, one note represented by a line, space, line, space, line, space, line, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and so on. And as you can see, if we read off of this now, that the eye gets confused. This is early notation. How did we get to the point where we read the way we do in music? Before I erase the lines we don't need, I'm going to point out the musical alphabet, which is A, B, C, D, E, F, G. That's all you need to know. Don't go on to H. If you lived in Germany, you would, but not here. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. I want you to write that down. Get yourself a pencil and paper. Pause the video if you're here right now. And get a pencil and paper because there are a few things we're going to write down this morning. First one is the musical alphabet. What is it? A, B, C, D, E, F, G. You're going to want to say it backwards. G, F, E, D, C, B, A, because sometimes you're going to read notes going down. So if you know that this is a G, for example, you want to go G, F, E, D, C, B, A. Okay, the musical alphabet. Let's get rid of what we don't need to get rid of. And your eye is going to go, oh my goodness, it's so much easier to see this because we're limiting our lines and spaces. This big space in the middle represents one space. Different publishers, this will be different sizes, but this represents one space. So what we have also, in addition to these lines and spaces, are additional, that's crooked, I have to do it by hand, additional lines and spaces, and notes read just the same. These are called ledger lines. Write that down. Remember, you got a pencil and paper because you're going to use that term, L-E-D-G-E-R, ledger lines. These are upper ledger lines and spaces. These are the middle ledger lines and spaces. These are the lower ledger lines and spaces. And these are basically, in addition to these lines and spaces, the alphabet. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Okay, so how do we know what the notes are in each line? Sometime a long time ago, I should look this up, somebody decided that this was going to be a G, and the G clef was going to mark the second line from the bottom, the fourth line from the top, as being a G. This became a G clef. I don't usually make it like this. This surrounds, there you go. This is called treble, clef, write that down. Treble clef is also the G clef. That's a G, that's why it's called the G clef. It's always a G. It happens to be the G above middle C on the piano. At some point, somebody said, well, let's make the other staff with an F. This is called the bass clef or F clef, because that's an F. And all lines and all spaces in between are alphabetical. So let's start at this G. There's your G, there's your A, there's your B, C, D, E, F, G, A, could write it over here, B, C, D, and we just keep going. And that's how we determine what pitches are on the staff. G, F, E, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and so on. Counting backwards, this would be F, E, D, there's our middle C, there's our B, there's our A, G is below that, but then you begin to run into the bass clef, so we're not gonna go any further than C right now. We're gonna do the same thing with the bass clef. F, G, A, B, look at that, middle C. This is a really important note, middle C. It's not the exact note, middle note on the piano, but it's the centermost C. And everyone knows what it looks like in treble clef. It's here, but that's the same note as this note in the bass clef, middle C. E, D, C, B. Remember I suggested that you learn that you practice your alphabet backwards? This is the reason. A, G, F, E, D, C. We're getting lower. B, A, G, F, and it could go on and on to the bottom of the piano. There's a shortcut to reading the high notes and the low notes. We'll talk about that sometime in the future. So our musical alphabet, that's pretty much what this first session is about. As simple as this seems, you're going to want to practice this. So what you want to do is you want to go somewhere online and just Google free music manuscript paper. And there must be dozens and dozens of them. Print some out. And start this whole thing over again. What do you start with? 5 lines, parallel. And if you want to read treble and bass, then you need 2 sets of 5 lines and spaces. This is called the staff. These are called lines and spaces. This is called treble clef or G clef, bass clef or F clef. And what you want to do is you just want to start practicing. There's your G. There's your F. You don't need an instrument right now. There's your G. The next note on a space is A. The next note on a line is B. Space, line, space, line, space, line, space, line, and so on. Let's see. There's only one thing I wanted to add to this, and that is it's kind of a challenge by the end of practicing this a bunch of times. What we call the symmetry of C's. S-Y-M-M-E-T-R-Y of C's. Because these notes are the same, by the way. This is closer to bass clef. This is closer to treble clef, but that's still middle C. There are 5 important C's that when we're learning to get comfortable with the staff, the treble and the bass together, which is called a grand staff. You can write that down. That you don't really need that in that definition, but that's what it is. When you put the treble and the bass together, it's called a grand staff. Harp reads that, piano reads that, organ reads that, harpsichord reads that. Symmetry of C's. This C is 2 spaces away from the top. This C is 2 spaces away from the bottom. The next C, it's very cool to see, is 2 ledger lines to the top, and the low C is 2 ledger lines below the bass staff. This is called middle C, treble C, high C, bass C, and you can figure out right away this one's going to be called low C. And if you just look at this, you'll see that this symmetry from middle C, which is a line, the next C up is a space, the next C up is a line. Going the other way, line, next C down is a space, the next C down is a line. Of course, the next C down would be a space. That's how it always works. We're alternating lines and spaces alphabetically. So this is a good start. Get yourself some manuscript paper. Practice writing circles and dots on the lines and spaces. Try to fill up the whole space with a nice strong circle. You can add stems if you want. That one's going the wrong direction. It doesn't matter. You can add stems going down if you want. Try to fill up your line with a nice healthy circle. Fill your space with a nice healthy circle. We're going to talk about rhythm. We're going to talk about chords. We're going to talk about progressions. We're going to talk about melody. We're going to do sight singing. We're going to talk about modes. So if this is old for you and you don't need this early stuff, just check in with video number 2. And if that's if you already know that, wait around for video number 3. And I think within this next few weeks, with Cascadia's help, I think this is going to be a lot of fun. I'm so glad to be teaching. I'm not in the classroom right now. I'm not side by side with piano students right now, as you know. But stay well, be safe, wear your face mask, and listen to music. Bye.